Attorney General Pam Bondi faces a judge's wrath in a fiery courtroom clash. Fined for a bold speech, she fights back with razor-sharp legal prowess. Will her genius turn the tide? The courtroom buzzed with tension, a pressure cooker ready to burst. Rows of spectators leaned forward, their whispers a low hum, as Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States, stood at the defense table. Her tailored Navy suit was crisp, her posture unyielding, but her eyes burned with a quiet fire. Across from her, Judge Raymond Carter presided, his gavel a looming threat. The air crackled with hostility, the kind that comes when power meets defiance. This was no ordinary trial. Bondi was defending three high-profile clients, activists accused of inciting unrest during a controversial protest. The charges were murky, the evidence thin, but the political stakes were sky-high. Carter's voice boomed, cutting through the murmurs. "Ms. Bondi, this court will not tolerate grandstanding. Your opening statement was a political manifesto, not a legal argument. You're in contempt. $5,000. Gasps rippled through the room. The fine was a slap, a warning to rein her in. Bondi didn't flinch. Her lips curved into a faint, steely smile. "With respect, Your Honor, my arguments are grounded in precedent, not politics. I'd be happy to clarify." Her tone was calm, deliberate, but it carried an edge that made the room still. Carter's eyes narrowed. He leaned forward, his robes rustling. "Tread carefully, counselor. This isn't a soapbox." The case had drawn national attention. The activists, vocal critics of recent government policies, claimed their arrests were a targeted attack on free speech. Bondi, known for her fierce advocacy and unapologetic style, had taken their case personally. Her reputation as a legal bulldog preceded her, but so did her polarizing tenure as Florida's Attorney General, where she'd sparred with opponents over everything from health care to voting rights. To some, she was a champion of justice. To others, a political lightning rod. Carter, a veteran judge with a no-nonsense reputation, seemed determined to keep her in check. Bondi began her defense, her voice steady but commanding. The prosecution's case rests on vague allegations of incitement. Yet the First Amendment protects robust speech, even when it discomforts the powerful. She cited landmark cases, Brandenburg versus Ohio, Texas versus Johnson, each reference a brick in her legal fortress. The prosecutor, a wiry man named Ellis, scoffed audibly. "This is a courtroom, not a lecture hall," he muttered, loud enough for the jury to hear. Carter shot him a warning glance but said nothing. The tension between Bondi and the bench was palpable, a chess match with no clear winner. In the gallery, a young law intern named Maya Torres scribbled notes furiously. She dreamed of seeing Bondi in action, but this was more than she'd bargained for. Maya, a first-generation college graduate, had clawed her way into this prestigious internship. She admired Bondi's tenacity but worried about the fine. Was this a misstep, or was Bondi playing a longer game? Maya's pen paused as Bondi turned to face the jury, her gaze piercing. "My clients exercised their rights. The prosecution wants you to believe they're criminals. I'll prove they're patriots." Ellis rose, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Patriots? They disrupted public order, endangered lives. This isn't about free speech, it's about accountability." He pointed to a stack of photos, images of the protest turned chaotic. Smoke, shattered glass, shouting crowds. The jury shifted uncomfortably. Bondi didn't blink. She stepped forward, holding a single document. "Your Honor, I'd like to introduce Exhibit A, a video time-stamped before the alleged chaos. It shows my clients de-escalating, not inciting." Carter raised an eyebrow, intrigued despite himself. "Proceed," he said, but his tone held a challenge. As Bondi cued the video, the courtroom screens flickered to life. The footage was grainy but clear. Her clients, standing on a makeshift stage, urging calm. The crowd listened, some even dispersing. Maya's heart raced. This could shift everything. But Ellis was ready, his objection sharp. "This is selective editing, Your Honor. We have counter-evidence." Carter's gavel hovered. Would he allow the video? The room held its breath, the outcome teetering on a knife's edge. Judge Carter's gavel hung in the air, a silent threat as the courtroom waited. The screen still glowed with Pam Bondi's video, her client's voices faintly audible, urging peace. Prosecutor Ellis's objection, selective editing, cut like a blade, his eyes darting to the jury, gauging their reaction. Bondi stood motionless, her expression unreadable, but her fingers tightened around the remote. "Your Honor," she said, her voice low but firm, "this footage is unedited, time-stamped, and corroborated by multiple sources. The prosecution's claim is baseless." Ellis smirked, leaning back in his chair. "Corroborated? By whom? Her client's friends?" Carter's gaze flicked between them, his impatience palpable. "Enough," he snapped, lowering the gavel but not striking. "The video is admitted, but Mr. Ellis, you'll have your chance to present counter-evidence. Ms. Bondi, move on." A murmur rippled through the spectators. Maya Torres, the intern, exhaled, her notebook trembling in her hands. The ruling was a small victory for Bondi, but the prosecutor's smug confidence unnerved her. Ellis had something up his sleeve. She could feel it. Bondi pivoted smoothly, addressing the jury. "This video shows my clients acting responsibly. The prosecution wants you to focus on chaos that erupted later, chaos they didn't cause." She gestured to the screen, now frozen on her clients' faces, earnest and resolute. "These are not instigators. They're citizens exercising their rights." Her words were measured, but each syllable carried weight, pulling the jury into her narrative. Maya marveled at her control, the way she turned a courtroom into a stage without crossing into theatrics. Ellis wasn't having it. He leapt up, holding a USB drive like a weapon. "Your Honor, permission to present our footage, since we're trading videos." Carter nodded, his expression unreadable. The screens shifted, and Ellis's video played. A different angle of the protest, the crowd surging, signs waving, voices shouting. Bondi's clients were visible, but this time their words were drowned by the roar of the mob. A bottle flew, glass shattering. The jury gasped. Ellis paused the video, pointing. "This is what they caused. Not peace, pandemonium." Bondi's jaw tightened, but her voice stayed even. "Objection, Your Honor. This footage lacks context. It's from an hour later after police escalated tensions." Carter raised an eyebrow. "Overruled. The jury can weigh context." Bondi nodded, but Maya saw the flash of frustration in her eyes. The prosecutor was painting a damning picture, and the jury was eating it up. A juror in the front row, a middle-aged woman, frowned, her arms crossed. Maya's stomach knotted. Bondi was losing ground. Unfazed, Bondi called her first witness, one of the activists, a soft-spoken woman named Clara Hayes. Clara's hands shook as she took the stand, but her voice was steady. "We wanted dialogue, not violence," she said. "We told the crowd to stay calm, to go home." Bondi paced, her questions sharp but gentle, drawing out Clara's story. The protest's purpose, the police's sudden aggression, the arrests. The jury listened, but Ellis's cross-examination was brutal. "Ms. Hayes, did you know some in your crowd carried weapons?" Clara faltered. No, but we didn't encourage that." Ellis pounced. "So you lost control." The courtroom felt hotter, the air thick with doubt. Maya scribbled, her admiration for Bondi tinged with worry. The Attorney General was a master, but Ellis was relentless, twisting every word. Bondi reapproached Clara, her tone soothing. "Ms. Hayes, did you or your group advocate for violence?" Clara's eyes met hers. "Never." Bondi turned to the jury, her gaze piercing. The prosecution wants you to blame my clients for others' actions. That's not justice. As Clara stepped down, Carter called a recess. The room erupted, in whispers. Maya watched Bondi confer with her team, her face a mask of determination. Ellis, meanwhile, huddled with his assistants, smirking. In the gallery, a reporter typed furiously, the headline already forming, "Bondi's defense falters." Maya's heart sank. The next witness, another activist, was due after the break. Would they hold up, or would Ellis tear them apart? Bondi caught Maya's eye for a split second, her expression unreadable. Then she turned away, readying for the next fight, as the clock ticked down. The recess ended with a sharp rap of Judge Carter's gavel, silencing the courtroom's restless buzz. Pam Bondi stood, her posture rigid, as the weight of the trial pressed down. The reporter's half-formed headline, "Bondi's defense falters," hung in the air like a taunt. Maya Torres, clutching her notebook, felt the tension coil tighter. Prosecutor Ellis's smirk lingered as he adjusted his tie, ready to pounce. Bondi's fleeting glance at Maya during the break had been cryptic, but now her focus was razor-sharp, locked on the next witness. The second activist, Marcus Reed, took the stand, his broad shoulders tense, his eyes scanning the room warily. Bondi approached, her voice steady. "Mr. Reed, describe your role at the protest." Marcus, a former teacher with a calm demeanor, spoke clearly. "I organized the event to demand accountability, not chaos. We had permits, a plan. We urged nonviolence." His words were firm, but Maya noticed his hands gripping the stand. Bondi nodded, guiding him. "And when the police arrived?" Marcus's jaw tightened. "They rushed in, batons raised. We tried to de-escalate, but they arrested us anyway." The jury leaned forward, intrigued, but Ellis was already rising, his eyes glinting. "Mr. Reed," Ellis began, his tone dripping with skepticism, "you claim nonviolence, yet your group's social media called for resistance." "Sounds incendiary to me." Marcus shook his head. "That meant peaceful protest, not violence." Ellis produced a printout, waving it like a flag. "This post says, 'Fight back.' Your words?" Marcus hesitated. "It was figurative, about standing up for rights." Ellis sneered. "Figurative? Tell that to the broken windows." "The," jury murmured, doubt creeping in. Maya's pen froze. Ellis was a shark, circling for the kill. Bondi's objection was swift. "Your Honor, the prosecution is misrepresenting context. That post predates the protest and refers to civic engagement." Carter's eyes narrowed. "Sustained, but Mr. Ellis, you may continue." Bondi's face remained impassive, but Maya saw her adjust her notes, recalibrating. She reapproached Marcus, her questions precise. "Did you instruct anyone to act violently?" Marcus's voice was resolute. "No. We trained our group in de-escalation." Bondi turned to the jury. "The prosecution cherry-picks words to distort truth. My client's actions speak louder." Ellis wasn't done. He called a surprise witness, a police officer named Lieutenant Gaines, who strode to the stand with authority. "I was there," Gaines said, his voice gruff. "The crowd was hostile, egged on by the defendants. We had no choice but to act." Ellis nodded, triumphant. "So their de-escalation was a sham?" Gaines shrugged. "Looked like a riot to me." The courtroom stirred, the jury's faces hardening. Maya's stomach churned. The officer's testimony was damning, and Ellis knew it. Bondi rose, her cross-examination relentless. "Lieutenant Gaines, your report states you deployed tear gas before my clients were arrested, correct?" Gaines shifted. "Yes, to control the crowd." Bondi pressed. "And did you hear my client's calls for calm over the megaphone?" Gaines frowned. "It was loud. I don't recall." Bondi produced a transcript, her voice cutting. This is your own radio log, noting organizers urging dispersal minutes before your action. Does that refresh your memory? Gaines reddened, mumbling, "Maybe." The jury exchanged glances, uncertainty flickering. Carter watched, his expression unreadable, but the earlier contempt fine loomed over Bondi's every move. She was walking a tightrope, dismantling the prosecution's case while dodging the judge's ire. Maya marveled at her precision, but the room felt volatile. Ellis, undeterred, prepared to redirect, whispering to his team. The reporter in the gallery typed faster, sensing a turning point. Bondi returned to her table, her eyes scanning the jury, reading their doubt. Marcus stepped down, his face etched with worry. The trial was a chess game, and Ellis had just moved a knight. As Bondi called her next piece of evidence, a witness statement from a neutral bystander, Maya held her breath. Would this tip the scales, or would Ellis strike again? The courtroom braced for the next blow, the truth hanging in the balance. The courtroom pulsed with anticipation as Pam Bondi rose, clutching a sworn statement from a neutral bystander. Judge Carter's stern gaze followed her, the contempt fine a silent warning, but Bondi's composure held firm. Prosecutor Ellis leaned forward. His whispered strategy session with his team cut short, his eyes narrowing as Bondi addressed the court. "Your Honor, I present the testimony of Sarah Lynn, a shopkeeper who witnessed the protest from her storefront. Her account corroborates my client's non-violent intent." Maya Torres, gripping her notebook, felt a flicker of hope. This could be the pivot Bondi needed. But Ellis's coiled posture signaled trouble. Bondi read aloud, her voice clear and commanding. "Ms. Lynn states, I saw the organizers on a stage, telling people to stay peaceful. When the police charged, the crowd panicked, not the speakers." The jury shifted, some nodding, others skeptical. Bondi handed the statement to the clerk, her movements deliberate. "This is an unbiased perspective, Your Honor, unlike the prosecution's selective narrative." Ellis sprang up, his objection sharp. "Hearsay, Your Honor. This witness isn't here for cross-examination." Carter's brow furrowed. "Ms. Bondi, why isn't Ms. Lynn testifying in person?" Bondi didn't hesitate. "She's recovering from surgery but offered this notarized statement. It's admissible under Rule 807. Carter paused, the room hanging on his decision. "I'll allow it," he said finally, "but its weight is for the jury to decide." Ellis's jaw clenched, but he masked it with a thin smile. Maya scribbled, her pulse racing. Bondi had scored a point, but the prosecutor's confidence unnerved her. Ellis cross-examined the statement's credibility, his voice dripping with disdain. A shopkeeper? Probably just protecting her business interests. Where's the proof she wasn't biased? Bondi countered swiftly. Ms. Lynn has no affiliation with my clients. Her store's security footage, which I'll introduce next, aligns with her account. The mention of footage electrified the room. Bondi cued a new video, the screen flickering to life. It showed the protest from Lynn's shop window. Her clients on the stage, megaphones in hand, urging calm as police lines advanced. The timestamp matched Lynn's statement. The jury leaned forward, captivated. Even Carter's stern facade softened, slightly. But Ellis was ready, his counterattack brutal. Your Honor, this video conveniently omits the chaos that followed. I have additional footage showing the defendants' group clashing with police. He produced a flash drive, his smirk returning. Let's show the full picture. Carter allowed Ellis's video, and the mood shifted. The new footage was chaotic. Protesters shoving against police shields, a trash can overturned, shouts drowning out reason. Bondi's clients were visible, but their actions were unclear in the melee. Ellis pointed triumphantly. This is their legacy. Disorder, not dialogue. The jury's faces hardened, doubt creeping back. Maya's stomach knotted. Bondi's evidence was strong, But Ellis's visceral imagery was stronger. A juror in the back whispered to another, their expressions grim. Bondi didn't waver. She called her final witness, Dr. Elena Voss, a sociologist who studied protest dynamics. Voss, poised and articulate, testified, "The defendant's actions align with de-escalation strategies. Police escalation, not their speech, triggered the chaos." Ellis's cross-examination was scathing. "So, Dr. Voss, you're saying the police caused the riot, not the defendant's rhetoric?" Voss held her ground. "I'm saying the data shows their intent was peace." Ellis scoffed. "Data? This isn't a classroom. This is real life." The exchange crackled with hostility, and Carter's gavel cut through. "Order! Ms. Bondi, wrap up your case." Bondi nodded, her eyes scanning the jury, reading their wavering trust. She delivered a final statement to Voss, her voice resonant. "Dr. Voss, is there any evidence my clients incited violence?" Voss replied, "None. Their actions were textbook nonviolent advocacy." The jury stirred, but Ellis's earlier video lingered in their minds. Maya watched Bondi return to her table, her face a mask of resolve. The reporter in the gallery typed furiously, sensing the trial's climax. As closing arguments loomed, Ellis whispered to his team, his confidence unshaken. Bondi glanced at her clients, their fates in her hands. The room braced for the final showdown, the scales of justice teetering. The courtroom held its breath as Judge Carter's gavel echoed, demanding order. Pam Bondi stood at her table, her gaze steady, the weight of her client's fates pressing against her. The jury's eyes flickered with doubt, haunted by Prosecutor Ellis's chaotic video. Maya Torres, her notebook nearly filled, felt the tension knot her chest. Ellis's whispered confidence to his team was a stark contrast to Bondi's quiet resolve. The reporter in the gallery paused, sensing history in the making. Closing arguments were moments away, and the trial's outcome hung by a thread. Ellis rose first, his voice smooth but biting. "Ladies and gentlemen, don't be swayed by polished words. The defendant's protest sparked chaos, broken glass, injured officers. Their peaceful rhetoric was a mask for incitement. Hold them accountable." He pointed to the frozen video frame of the riot, letting it sear into the jury's minds. His words were a hammer, each strike aimed at Bondi's defense. The jury shifted, some nodding, others stone-faced. Maya's heart sank. Ellis was a showman, and he was winning. Bondi stood, her presence commanding silence. "Your Honor, jury, this case isn't about chaos, it's about rights." Her voice was calm but resonant, cutting through Ellis's theatrics. "My clients spoke out as the Constitution protects. The prosecution wants you to blame them for others' actions, but the evidence, videos, witnesses, data, shows they de-escalated, not incited." She paced, her eyes locking with each juror. "Clara, Hayes urged peace. Marcus Reed trained for nonviolence. Sarah Lynn saw it. Dr. Voss proved it. The police, not my clients, escalated." She gestured to her video now replaying on the screen. Her clients calming the crowd. "This is truth, not manipulation." Ellis scoffed audibly, but Bondi pressed on. "The prosecution's case rests on fear, not facts. They've shown you chaos, but no proof my clients caused it. Justice demands you see through their distortion." Her voice rose, not in volume but in conviction. "Free speech isn't a crime. My clients are not criminals. They're citizens. Acquit them." She sat, her gaze unflinching. The jury stirred, their doubt softening. Maya's pen trembled. Bondi had turned the tide, but had it been enough? Carter adjourned for deliberation, the courtroom erupting in murmurs. Hours crawled by. Maya watched Bondi confer with her clients, her calm a stark contrast to their visible nerves. Ellis, still smirking, predicted a quick conviction to his team. The reporter typed, her headline shifting. Bondi's last stand. Maya's mind raced, replaying Bondi's arguments, her precision under pressure, the contempt fine, the hostile judge, the relentless prosecutor. Bondi had faced them all with steel. The jury returned, their faces unreadable. Carter's voice was grave. "Have you reached a verdict?" The foreperson stood. "We have, Your Honor. On all counts, we find the defendants not guilty." The room exploded, gasps, cheers, groans. Bondi's clients embraced, tears in their eyes. Ellis's smirk vanished, his face ashen. Carter's gavel restored order, but his expression softened. "Ms. Bondi, your arguments were compelling. The charges are dismissed. Court adjourned." He paused, then added, "And the contempt fine is rescinded." A ripple of shock followed. Bondi nodded, her lips curving slightly. Maya exhaled, her notebook falling to her lap. The reporter typed furiously, her headline now clear, "Bondi's Triumph." As the crowd dispersed, Bondi approached Maya, her voice low. "Keep studying, kid. Preparation wins battles." Maya nodded, speechless. The lesson etched deep. Measured advocacy, backed by ironclad evidence, could shift mountains. Bondi walked, away, her clients free, her reputation cemented. The courtroom emptied, but the echo of her victory lingered, a testament to her legal genius. Maya tucked her notebook away, inspired, ready to chase her own battles with the same relentless precision.